God, no. Please, what is that? Don't tell me.
So, welcome to Midnight Reel, episode 3.
Trey
4. Today, we're going to be talking about the Netflix MCU. Why? Well, to be honest, it's a pretty boring day in the theaters.
It's about that time of the year, though.
It is, but I mean,
because stuff is slowing down.
The summer releases are all gone pretty much, and now we're ramping up for the fall releases, and obviously the big ones. We're gonna get the new Kingsman movie coming out soon. It's coming out. Thor's coming out. Star Wars is coming out. I mean, and I'm just listing the main ones, and there's still at least 4 or 5 more.
Hitman's Bodyguard still made $10.1 million.
That's true.
So that's got to be pretty good.
It is.
And I keep hearing about Logan Lucky. Which
And that new Jack Renner movie. Or Jeremy Renner. I'm sorry, Jeremy Renner.
He goes by Jack Short. This is a nickname.
Okay, we'll go with that. But no, what is that? I'm trying to remember what the name of that one is.
Jeremy Renner?
Wind River?
Wind River? Is it Wind River?
Wind River?
That one, it looks really good.
Apparently, yeah.
I'm Wind River. Wind River.
Sounds a lot like what I just said.
Oh, not to mention the fact that Tobe Hooper died, or Toby Hooper.
Yep. Oh, and did you hear about the death on the Deadpool 2?
We did.
No, I have not
Set.
heard.
Yep. Deadpool 2, one of the stunt girls. They were doing I think it was a motorcycle
Yeah,
scene?
it was a motorcycle scene, and the scene involved driving the motorcycle down like a set of stairs and then like taking a right turn onto this alleyway. And apparently they had gone through and done trial runs like 7, 8 something times, and everything was fine. And then all of a sudden on the filming run, she makes it down the stairs and the bike just rockets forward. She doesn't turn at all, and she ends up going through the window on the first floor of this building that's right there. And they, the paramedics that are on scene get her all loaded up, put her in the back of an ambulance, and apparently the ambulance sat there on the set with her in the back for about 30 minutes, and then they turned the lights off and then just drove off. Because apparently it was...
Too late.
Yeah, it was if they couldn't stabilize her right then and there, she was never going to make it to the hospital, and they were unable to stabilize her, and so she ended up dying in the back of the ambulance. So,
That's sad.
Yeah. But Ryan Reynolds came out and gave a good release on Twitter about how everything, all the thoughts and prayers are after the family, and I think he's setting up. I think he personally set something up to help to take care of all the financial stuff for everything
The
and all
family.
that. So
Yeah. Pretty respectful. It was sad moment. I know that happened I think about a week and a half ago, but yeah, other than that, no, there's really not that much crazy stuff going on in the world of movies. But probably in the next month or so, there's going to be a whole bunch to talk about.
I
Anyway.
do want to see Goon 2. The sequel to Goon. That movie is great.
it was fun. That'd probably be one of our wonderfully bad movies.
Yeah, because it's a pretty bad movie. It kind of falls in the same vein as Happy Gilmore.
Yeah.
It's well made though.
Yeah, oh yeah. And those Happy Madison productions are very good. Their quality is there, but it's just they're still bad movies.
Yeah, and they're not going to be considered AFI's top 100 list.
Oh
Yeah.
Yeah.
but they're just guilty pleasures, right? You watch them no matter what. Anyways, I am Joe, your host today, and to my left,
2 weeks in a row.
yeah, my plea came through. To my left, Scott Phillips.
It's very important to know that I am on your left. So when you guys are listening,
Yeah.
just
I could be right in front. You don't even.
visualize.
Yeah, we want you to feel like you're here with us.
There is an empty spot to my left. That's
There
where
is.
You guys are sitting.
And I am Patrick Boyd.
He is on my right, if you really need to know, on my right side. So now that we've established a scene, I think we're
We're all
be able to
facing the same
establish an
direction,
atmosphere
too.
here.
That's the awkward part.
But as far as news for the week, we kind of just basically told you everything that's really kind of going on. Nothing too crazy. Obviously, though, if you are a Netflix person, Death Note just came out.
That is true. true. I haven't watched it yet.
It's a movie, so if you don't want to digest the entire anime, you can watch the movie and you'll probably feel like you're missing a lot of details. I haven't watched it yet, but I mean, I can imagine, a 16, I forget how many episodes, like 16 episode thing is condensed down to an hour 44 minutes.
My understanding, the feedback that I've been getting from it, and I've correctly not seen this yet either, but the feedback I've heard is people I've seen that said they like it have not watched the anime.
Right.
The people I know that have watched the anime have said they do not like the movie.
Well, I can officially say I have not heard of it, and it popped up on my feed today of like, hey, you should watch this.
Yeah.
So I guess I will be the experiment, because I literally have not even heard of it.
Well, I would say watch the movie first then, so that way we can get the...
Because you and I have seen the anime,
Right.
right?
I'm still gonna watch it regardless.
So all three of us can watch that movie, and then we'll have that split of us who have seen the anime, and we'll go and watch the movie. You have not, we'll go and watch the movie, and
Yeah.
we'll see how...
I did watch the Castlevania Netflix show.
So good.
So good. Like,
Super
it
good.
was sad that there was 3 episodes.
4.
Yeah.
Or
Four.
4 episodes,
episodes.
yeah. It was still like, there was so much more to like keep going, and I was just like, why would it stop here?
Well, because the guy finally starts getting interesting.
Yeah.
Belmont stops being a little whiny guy and so
Starts
depressed
being
about
a
everything.
hero.
It starts being cool.
Yeah. It's great. Like, the animation style is perfect.
Oh man.
You felt like you were literally watching Castlevania. It was great. It was great.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the next series. I feel like it was only given 4 because they weren't sure if it was gonna work.
I think so too.
And because it worked so well. Although they still haven't even advertised it that much. So that's also kind of disappointing. Like, hardly anyone knows that it was even out.
Well, and the thing is, it even just with the limited release that they had, it blew up. I mean, they didn't have to advertise it for anything.
Yeah.
They-
Well, I shared it, but I know like only like half my friends really watched it because they all immediately forgot about it the moment, like,
Well-
it's not given the same kind of time frame that all the Marvel movies are given on the splash page. Like every day I boot up right now, it's like Defenders. It's like, and then like you said today, I saw Death Note, and I go, don't even know what that is. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, even prior to the Defenders release, for like the couple of days before, the splash screen was a countdown timer to the release for the Defenders.
Right, as if they don't have any other shows.
Yeah.
Although I did get there's that new show that's basically Weeds reimagined.
Oh yeah, with Kathy Bates.
Kathy Bates as a
Yeah.
pot dealer in Denver or something.
Yeah, I forget what it's called. I just saw the trailer for it.
I don't know. It's a play on of weed.
Yeah.
I forget what it is though. Disjointed. That's it.
Disjointed. There you go. Yeah, I saw that. It doesn't look that interesting to me.
No, it's. I mean, she's great.
Oh
Watching
yeah.
her was,
Oh yeah.
Like, even seeing the
Fantastic.
trailer, it was like looked really funny, but at the same, there's also canned laughter in the background. I just can't do that. Like the canned laughter. Oh, the Tick came out too. So
Oh that yeah. Isn't that Amazon?
Amazon.
Yeah, that's Amazon's thing.
I did not like the pilot that they made, so I'll probably watch it but I love the original. It had like it was nothing like the cartoon, but the Patrick Warburton Tick was like that is what, when I viewed the Tick, Patrick Warburton is exactly who I picture.
He's one of my favorite actors, and mainly just because he's just got that voice.
The voice, yeah.
The voice is what
The
sells
golden
everything.
voice.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's a lot of stuff coming on streaming. It seems like more people are staying at home watching streaming stuff than going out to movies. Obviously,
And that's kind of what I think we were alluding to last week, was in reference to what's going to happen between cable and what's going to happen with streaming. I think if more and more companies start focusing more on their streaming and they start developing content just based for their
even more adult content.
Yeah.
Like, everything in the theaters will be for kids, and everything at home will be for adults. Like, because you don't even need that giant wide release anymore. Like, everyone, like, it used to be like a no-no thing to have everything on street, like, immediately, like the movies that you have, the straight to DVD movies, were used to always be the worst movies you could possibly buy. Now that's where really the really great stories, independently made movies, are all coming from. So,
Well, I mean, you got like, for example, just now the most recent one is Death Note. Death Note is going directly to Netflix, and the thing is now more and more people are getting their own kind of, like you say, theater room setups. So there's no reason for them to go to the movie theater other than to say, oh, we're going to go watch this before anyone else.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, there are certain movies that make sense to go put into a actual theatrical release, like Guardians, Star Wars.
like
Those
massive graphical, very CGI based movies you're gonna want to see that. You're gonna want to see have a better theater experience anyway, better audio, better everything.
Yeah, it's there. I mean, treat it like an experience. But like a lot of these great stories, like even the DC movies that are coming out, we were talking about it just before we started up. The Batman movies are really good. Flashpoint's really good.
Yeah,
They're
all the Warner Brothers animation.
Oh yeah,
movies.
those Warner Brothers are phenomenal stories. Great animation. I mean, just great talent all around, and they're great. I mean, just tons of fun to watch.
Yeah, and it kind of brings you back to, for me, it brings me back to being a kid watching the Batman animated series, which was the golden age of animation, because that's when you also had like all the Warner Brothers shows, so like Animaniacs and Looney, everything.
Saturday morning cartoons. When's the last time anyone has ever seen?
Funny thing, I've been thinking about that a lot recently, because this, especially yesterday, I woke up and I was like, man, why isn't there a Netflix Saturday morning cartoon just channel that I could watch or something?
And just every Saturday it has a new collection of episodes or
just a mixture of shows.
Yeah,
Like, who
just a
cares?
mixture of shows, and they just release it. Or
I bet Pluto TV has, like, there's a channel for sure.
Man, just sit
I bet
down.
Pluto has it.
I would say one of the best ones in my opinion would be Boomerang. If Boomerang did Saturday morning cartoons, because they could get all their classic cartoons and redo
Their collection.
Yeah, and redo Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you just sit there with a big bowl of
Cereal.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and
Yeah.
good to
Get a
go.
couple fruit snacks.
Good
Fruit
to go.
Fruit Loops did it.
Yeah, Fruit Loops is
Fruit
a
Loops.
good
or,
I mean,
or,
I say Cinnamon Toast Crunch because that's currently in my pantry right now.
or Fruity Pebbles.
30 years old, still buy Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
I'll have you know. So I really do think though they should do that. I think if streaming services were to start doing more events like that, where they have like those Saturday morning cartoons, or like there was something
Where it just automatically plays when you open up the app.
right, like it's just you turn
Or
it
if you open
on.
it in the kids app, maybe.
Right, or like you can just basically it loads up on the main screen every Saturday morning starting at 6 o'clock in the morning, and you just click Saturday morning cartoons, and you just click that, and it just starts the wherever the program is going, and you get to just have random episodes of whatever the shows may be, but you have those kind of Saturday morning cartoons. I think streaming services really do have an opportunity at starting to bring back these events that kids from the 90s like us or even before that were able to enjoy. Really good memories. But anyways, as far as that's the news and thoughts for the day. Take them.
I don't get this at all. I thought Little Panda...
Shut up, Mr. Burton. You are not brought upon this world to get it.
To our topic of the show, Netflix. The Marvel Cinematic Universe that Netflix is building. Overall opinion. What do you think, Scotty?
Oh man, overall I think they're doing a really good job. There's obviously nitpicks and things that they need to work on with certain shows, and we'll dive into that more when we talk about each show. But yeah, I mean, I'd say overall it's it's a whole separate universe that's just working incredibly well. Netflix's ability to release things all at once and allow you to binge them and not have to wait every week for an episode, and their ability to set any time frame they need for show length, whether it's episodes or how long each episode is just the perfect way to do these kind of things. You're not stretching stories out to make them last for a certain amount of time. You're not trying to cut things short to get them in a certain amount of time. You're allowing to just write a story, film it out, and however long it takes to finish, cool, that's it, you're good. You don't have to worry about movies who say, hey, we have this really good story and it could be 2.5 hours, but you're not going to be able to keep people sitting in a theater seat for 2.5 hours, stay entertained. And then, just cable is stuck to, we got to fill, 22 episodes, and each episode has to fill a 30-minute time block on TV with X number amount of commercials, so each episode has to be exactly this long. You look at most of these shows through Netflix, and pretty closely each episode's usually a little different as far as runtime, and they're not all the same length of episodes and all that, and that's what I think works really well.
Yeah, like even Guardians of the Galaxy, when the second one, when I watched it, it felt like it took forever to get to the point.
Right.
And so, this way you could actually cut short and like just do little segments of.
Yeah, and it's all part of the setting. I mean, you take Guardians 2 and watch it at home, and it doesn't feel like it's that bad because you're able to talk to the people you're watching the movie with. You can get them to go to the bathroom real quick, or grab a bite to eat, drink,
grab
whatever.
another beer.
Yeah. But you're sitting in a theater, you're stuck in this one, usually not incredibly comfortable seat where you have to be super quiet, your phone off. You don't want to risk getting up and going to the bathroom and missing something, or trying to go to concession and refill your drinks and missing something. So that 2 hour, 15 minutes starts to seem a lot longer when you're stuck in that seat. But being able to binge watch something on Netflix, I mean, most people, when the Defenders came out, the last big show that they released for their Marvel stuff, most people I know watch that in a day, if not 2. And it's just...
I just can't do it.
Done.
I can't sit that long. Like, I get through 3 episodes, and I'm like, and I'm done, and time to go do something else.
But that's why it's good, because you're able to digest it at the speed you feel most comfortable.
Yeah.
Versus, some people can do that, where they'll binge it all day, or there's other ones that, hey, I'm going to binge it for the week. Like, I'm going to watch an episode a day, and they'll just treat it like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But they give you basically the option to watch it the way you want to watch it.
Right. I mean, it's better that way, too, and you're not having to wait for like the story to continue if you really are interested or keep watching. Like, you can, and so it's, I don't know, I think it works out for the most part. It's just not for me. I think I'm one of the few people in my friend group that can do that. Like, almost everyone I know has already finished all of the Defenders, and I'm the only one that's still like, give me a minute.
That's what basically what Joe just said. That's what's awesome. What's so great about it.
Yeah.
And that's why it works so well. And even though yes, we are in the day and age of DVR and all that stuff, you don't have to worry about what we used to grow up with of oh crap, it's Wednesday. Like, I have to be home by 4 o'clock because the show's coming on at 4, and if I miss it, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
Like,
You have to wait for the rerun comes on
to come on
in 3 months or whatever.
Or you bring out the old trusty VHS and record it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I did.
Yeah.
I pre-programmed my I think at one point I had every single episode of X-Files recorded on VHS, and it was set to record literally every week, whether I was home or not.
Yep.
And I would watch it whenever I got a chance. I think I was the only kid that did that.
Well, I mean,
because I was hooked from that show, like the moment. That was my favorite show growing up. Still kind of is.
Like, you remember back before you even had the programmable VCR, and you had to be there.
Yep.
To
hit press record. Yeah. And you had to make sure that it was recording. So you normally would start it about
5 minutes ahead.
Yeah. So you're like, and then you rewind it. You're like, okay, we're good. And then you press record again.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
So, if you are feeling young, trust me, you are. All right.
Yeah.
If you're sitting down right now and saying, "What is a VCR?"
Well, even looking back, like on when watching Star Trek: The Next Generation, when they ended the season with Picard becoming part of the Borg, and you had to wait till a season opener of the next season to come out before you had any idea what was going to happen. Because as far as you knew, they were done. He was a Borg for the rest of the remainder of the show.
And the shows weren't coming out, like being released to the public. Like if you wanted to watch it, you had to just basically watch it when it was on TV.
When the premiere day for the new season was going to be.
That's
to sit there and watch it.
And it's not like you got to sit there and go, hey, is that show available on VHS?
Yeah, right.
No, it wasn't. So if you wanted to watch a show, you had to basically wait and try to find which channel was running reruns, and then that's the way you had to get caught up. Oh my gosh.
UPN.
Like what is it, My 21?
No, I don't know.
I think there was
well,
like
originally it was UPN,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then it became the WB, and then it became My CW. And then
Right,
it's
okay,
CW
yeah.
now.
Now, I think the most memorable thing, by the way, from WB is the frog.
Yeah.
Dubba 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 WB. Like,
Yeah.
oh man, I still remember that.
I mean, I could even be wrong. I think it may have even started as Fox before it became UPN.
I don't know.
I could be wrong, but I don't know.
I don't
It
think,
was
I don't
so
think
long
so.
ago.
But there was like,
I mean, that was when Fox was brand new. So
Right,
it was like,
right.
That was not it was not a broadcasting choice.
but I mean,
Now it's a mainstay,
but I will say right now, like I still remember, trying to figure out like if you missed even one episode of something, you felt screwed because you didn't even know if they were going to rerun that specific episode. At least not until the following week, right before they're about to prepare the new episodes, and you're always watching the commercials in between because you see the previews for that show coming up saying all new episode next week. Tune in, and you're like freaking out, and so you have to find which episode you're looking for. And it's not like that you could go into saying, hey, let me see the details of this episode.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of just like, I think that's the new episode, and then you start trying to watch and basically gauge it off of that. That was the fun stuff.
And then you couldn't talk about it at school because you'd be made fun of endlessly for watching Star Trek. Like, you watch that? Yeah, I do. It's a great show.
But Netflix has made it a lot easier to consume these shows and really be able to enjoy them at a pace that actually fits with how things
Your
are
lifestyle.
right now. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different things. Like, people are like, the work hours are very different than they were even 15 years ago.
Well, I mean, on top of that, look at how the if you listen to podcasts that talk about movies and stuff too, like they all talk about how
Like this
they talk about TV shows that the rating system was like, oh yeah, they had their audience was 21 million people, and like the top now is like 8 million to watch one show at one time, and it's like a major event, and it's in, like the comparisons are not applicable anymore because everyone's watching their own thing at any given time. There's so many options. We're in the golden age era of TV, right? Even if you don't like or even if you like or dislike Game of Thrones, you can acknowledge that it's definitely a part of the culture right now for sure. Or in Marvel's stuff and Disney's stuff and all that stuff.
And to be honest, it's not even just it's just media and entertainment in general. I mean, you think how many people are now just watching streamers of video games, right? So rather than watching TV now, they're watching streamers.
That's millennials because I can't do it.
Well, but the fact of the matter is, I mean, you think about it, that's now a new major entertainment medium, and you have like Netflix or Amazon Prime or even Hulu, all these different streaming sites are now doing their own original services are now doing their own content, and
they're spending a lot of money on them too.
Yeah,
it's now an enticement to get them to be part of Amazon Prime, to watch The Tick or to watch Man in the High Castle or to watch, like, they all have their own content. Not to mention they all also, I think Amazon Prime is the one that bought the Big Sick, the Kumail Nanjiani movie that came out recently.
Oh, I remember that.
Oh, it was so good. It was in theaters. It has Ray Romano. It's a great movie. It's so good. It's very funny. It's very different in the way that it's, because you think, oh, it's all about like the relationship with the girl, but the girl's in a coma the whole time, and because it's his real life like situation, what happened with his wife that he has right now, and so it's amazing. It's really funny and really good.
I have to check it out.
Yeah,
but kind of get it back on. I mean, kind of, even though it's a long roundabout way, but the idea is that streaming services like Netflix or Hulu or Amazon have really been able to let you watch shows like you couldn't watch them even, like I said, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. The rise of these original shows is something that is fairly new. I would say, maybe the last 5 years, 6 years maybe, is when they've actually started doing these original shows. And obviously the first one that came out in reference to Marvel was the very first Daredevil.
Right.
And I think Daredevil first season really showed what?
Well, everyone was hesitant. Remember before it came out, our last experience with Daredevil was Ben Affleck and Jennifer Gardner, and it was not a good movie. And
Yeah.
it was. I still want to go back and rewatch it, but I remember just being disgusted with it because it was just like so boring. I didn't care about the characters. Didn't care about any of the drama that was with it.
They were trying to go for that very comic book feel of it, right? And the
Yeah.
problem
Like
is
the Batman and Robin style.
right,
comic,
and that's
right?
the problem is you like it. Those what happens in comic books works for comic book settings or even animated.
Yeah.
Like those kind of things work for that style. But when you go into like a very
live action.
realistic world, like Batman, the original Batman with Michael Keaton was able to pull it off because it treated it a little bit different, right? It was still
Well,
goofy.
They also picked the perfect director at the time who was super popular.
Oh, yeah.
Very dark, that's his style. You expected it from him. So you already knew what you're expecting. So it was like the perfect kind of introduction to that.
And it worked for the time. But again, we've talked about it before that there is always a change in style, and as times move on, people want to watch things in a certain way. Like we could say maybe 20 years from now, the Daredevil from Netflix now is not going to be appealing to people. It's very possible. I'm not saying that's going to be the case, but it is possible because just
you don't know how stuff kind of gestates when it's already been out for years.
How does it hold up years later? And that's it's very possible that people's style may change. Obviously, like for example, we were talking about Spider-Man our very first week, and obviously Mary Jane doesn't really click with me. She just doesn't. But for a lot of kids, she does click, and there's a thing you can relate with. So obviously what you market to, how you market it, what style you're going for really kind of depends on the times. And I think obviously Daredevil and a lot of the Marvel really kind of try to speak to what's going on now and trying to keep it that very realistic, gritty setting.
Yeah, and season 1 I think really worked because it introduced the character. You saw that he was human. You saw that he had his own devils kind of to work with, and it worked for the most part for me. But yeah, it's I liked it a lot, and it was a great introduction to the entire MCU on Netflix because you weren't expecting much because you're like, well, how can they possibly hold a candle to the movies as a show? Like we had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I don't know if that was already out yet or not. But
it was, but that was I think
it was all
ABC.
disappointing. Like
it wasn't so much disappointing as it was like there was a lot of good moments, but then there was just as many bad moments, and that was the problem. Is like it was not very consistent in its delivery.
So
right, you can tell the difference between writers in each episode.
Yeah, you can admit it was almost kind of ballsy for them to spend the money on filming that show and releasing it and taking that chance because, as we just stated, like shows like that in the past have not been successful, and again, like Patrick said, how do you compare to the movies? Like, how do you stand up to that and make a show with mostly unknown actors? You don't have these big
Robert Downey Jr.,
he's Chris Evans, he's Chris Hemsworth. Like, you don't have these huge name A-list actors that are filming the show and being a part of it, but
and they're not even in the show at all.
Yeah.
Like they have no reason to be in the show.
And somehow you're gonna film this out and release it and expect it to stand up on its own and essentially create their own new universe of Marvel on Netflix.
What was that other show that was like released? It was like I think it was a Marvel show too, and it happened on a different network. But it was like
there's Legion that came out.
Yep.
And
it's the one about the humans like witnessing like the stuff happening or something. Maybe it was DC. I can't
There's
remember.
Powerless.
Powerless. That's it.
And that one got canceled.
After like 3 episodes.
No, I mean it made it through most of its first season.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it was
obviously I didn't watch it, so
yeah, I watched it because it was on Hulu, so I was able to pick it up and watch the episodes
as they came.
But yeah, I mean it's just that style of show has just not been successful in the past, and to take the risk on that and do that. But I think the part of the reason why that happened is when Daredevil was released and it started, they didn't spend half their season doing an origin story. You know, you didn't have the first half of the season continuously talking about how he lost his sight and how he managed to
Become where he was.
pick up all these different traits and stuff from being blind and be able to quote unquote see the world the way he does and all that. Yeah, you could have easily just as failed as badly if you had done the first half of that season just focused on, all right, here's this guy, you know, dealing with being blind and trying to overcome this blindness and trying to learn how to do this stuff. And it wouldn't have lasted, I don't think.
No,
Because you kind of have to dive right in.
yeah, and I think one of the, again, strongest, and we've talked about this before, so it's probably going to be a lot of reiteration on a couple points, but those supporting characters. I mean, I think one of the nice things that you kind of get to see with these is that they make the people around the hero interesting. They make the people and the world around the hero feel more involved. And with season 1, I mean, it was a big surprise, especially because you could tell not only on the characters, not only in the writing they spent a lot of time, but the choreography for the fights they spent a lot of time. The costumes were very well done. They didn't seem cheesy or anything like that. There was, I think, just overall the quality of production was just like it really showcased what Netflix was really expecting to do with this, and it was a big surprise.
That's part of why that show is so successful is you managed to make a show interesting, you know, a Daredevil show interesting when Daredevil wasn't on screen, and you know, in order to do that, like you said, you have to make those side characters interesting. You have to make the other things that are going on in this universe interesting and wanting to follow. Otherwise, you're just watching this whole show waiting for Daredevil to be on screen, and if he's on screen 100% of the time, it's going to get old real quick. And if you can't enjoy it without him being on screen, it's going to get old real quick. So to be able to find that balance and work things out like that was pretty well done.
Well, again, just the villain in the first season, right? Kingpin.
Right.
Like,
He was introduced like episode 6 or 7 or something like that, wasn't he?
well, they kind of showcased him a little bit, but you didn't really get a real nice introduction until a little bit later.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the thing is, what's interesting is they kind of give you an idea behind the villain, too. And it's not just this villain who's just been a bad guy his whole life. You kind of actually say, man, I mean, he's a jerk beyond all reason. Like,
you kind of understand where he's coming from.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah, so you kind of like, you're able to kind of approach it in a different sense. You see him in a slightly different light, even though you know he's still bad. But that's, again, one of those really interesting points that you can tell they're taking the time. And this applies, I think, overall. So through all the shows that we're going to talk about, and including next week, because we're going to be talking about the Defenders specifically, but in each one of these, they take the time to develop not only the heroes, not only the side characters, but even the villains. Like, you get to see and find out more about them. So this
From
world's
their perspective.
yeah, and you get to see the world in a much bigger place. Like, everything seems very involved, and it's not just here's a quick little event. Cool, let's move on. Oh, look, another little event, and go on. No, it feels like everything has a connection to something, and it makes it feel much more involved.
Yeah.
And so then, like, yeah, you get into season 2 of Daredevil, and you can see where, after the success of the first season, they just really stepped their game up for the first season.
I mean, you would have to. I mean,
Yeah, the choreography of the fight scenes in the season 2 was just phenomenal. Like, every fight scene, you almost felt all of it.
Yeah.
And even a 1 to 2 minute fight scene, you know, almost felt like a good 5-10 minutes long because you're just so involved with what's going on. And you just were able to just rewatch these over and over again as much as you wanted.
The staircase fight, and you can even tell that was a super influential fight, because you look inside Civil War, they try to it almost looked like they tried to recreate that scene, and it was, I mean, that staircase scene where Daredevil obviously just got away from the Punisher, and he's trying to make his way out from this bike gang.
yeah.
That fight scene was phenomenal.
And you realize too, like it's all.
Oh my goodness.
It's all one shot.
Right.
That entire hallway fight scene was all one shot.
Like kind of like Old Boy, kind
You
of
go
like
back, if you go back and look at some of the behind the scenes stuff or whatever for filming that scene, a lot of those guys that he's fighting are the same stunt guys over and over, and he's literally like knocking them out, knocking them off screen, and they're getting up, running around the camera, like donning a slightly different costume because it's all bike gain, so it makes it a little bit easier for them all to be in leathers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Slightly changing their costume and then running right back into the set to fight Daredevil again. Like, I think they said on that set they only had a good like 5 to 10 stunt doubles that he was fighting, but in that one shot scene he's fighting 30, 40 people, and it's
Yeah.
just the same guys just over and over again.
Yeah.
So-
and Charlie Cox must have like incredible stamina to be able to hold to keep doing it.
The work that went behind filming that scene is just unbelievable
Yeah.
for a TV show.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
Yeah.
not to already get ahead of ourselves, but they should have spent the time to do that in Iron Fist. That's exactly what
Right.
Iron Fist should have been, but it
Right.
wasn't.
And that's the only other thing I have for Daredevil season 2 is introducing their new characters, like showing the Punisher, because they did announce that
Showing
they did a Punisher
Elektra.
show and all that stuff.
Which, on a quick note, rating of this Punisher. What do you think of this Punisher? This Punisher looks.
John Bernthal as Punisher is
He's perfect.
amazing.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
Amazing.
That is
especially for the grittier kind of universe that they are creating.
well, and the part I really liked about him was the fact that, like, it's when you remember him telling the story of his family. Like, just that scene alone, you see
The depth he's giving.
the depth of that character. It's insane. It's so enjoyable to watch, which is why out of all the Netflix Marvel shows right now, I am honestly most excited for the Punisher.
Yeah.
John Bernthal's character portrayal of that was beyond fantastic. It was like my favorite part of that season. After he kind of went away, after he did his section in like the first half of that season,
Yeah.
I mean, it was still a great show, and because obviously they were introducing the main villain that they're leading up to in the Defenders.
Right.
But the interaction with Daredevil and Punisher was just so good.
Yeah.
Oh my
And
goodness!
it's
Right.
like you said, like he I think was one of the perfect casting picks for the Punisher of this universe that they're creating.
And no one really expected it either. Like
No, not at all.
There was like it was kind of being downplayed. It seemed like for the most part, like, well, no, this is still all about Daredevil, and then the fact that how the great depth that they added to it, and all the like extras that they thought about. They spent the time, really feeling them out. So
Yeah, because I mean, I look at that Punisher movie that came out with Thomas Jane, like that was a really good Punisher movie. I did enjoy that, and I did think he played Punisher really well.
right, and
However, had you casted him in this show,
it would not have
it
worked.
wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
He would not have fit in this universe that they had created. And
Yeah.
the reverse is true as well. Had you put John Bernthal in that movie,
It would not have worked.
that movie wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
Um,
It's and the sad part is like when leading up to even the Punisher being in the show, Thomas Jane was doing his own kind of push to like continue the character because there was the sequel that made with Ray Stevenson as Punisher, and
That was it Warzone or something like that.
oh, yeah, Warzone.
Yeah.
I never saw it because
It
it was
was
like I had
bad.
no interest in it. But Thomas Jane funded his own little short that he did. I don't know if y'all remember seeing that. Yeah, he released a short, and it was him as Punisher, but he didn't call himself Punisher. I don't think he was even wearing the shirt or anything. And it was literally him getting groceries at a store, walking out to his car, seeing a kid across the street being beat up or something like that. It was a really good short. I wonder if I don't know. Y'all have to see it because it's actually really good. But it was his example of why he thinks he should continue doing the Punisher because he was look, I am the Punisher, and this is even this short film this little short can show the kind of the things I can do, and it just never happened. I'll have to show you that afterward. But it was really good, and so after seeing it, it was I was like, yeah, he needs to be coming back as the Punisher, and it just never happened. And now this happened, so he's never going to get cast again ever because it's now a completely different world. But it was yeah, it was really good. I wish I could.
What's called Dirty Laundry? Is that it?
Dirty Laundry, yeah. Where is it? I don't even know where
It's
it is.
right there. The bottom, right underneath the
Oh,
video.
short film. Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh yeah, because I guess he went in. And he was doing his laundry, which is why.
Either way, that's something to watch. But yeah, like I think again, going back to John Berthal, I think he just
Killed it.
He killed it. I mean, that was just no pun intended, by the way. Yeah. So, but no, absolutely phenomenal. If you haven't watched the teaser trailer, I highly recommend it. It's gonna be awesome.
And then, just flowing straight into Iron Fist, because you kind of have to. I know this is not the release order and all that stuff, but you kind of have to compare. Daredevil was almost kind of the downfall for Iron Fist.
It set the standards so high
right
that you could only go higher, and anything less than that would have been a failure.
exactly. And then you release a show that's now your main character is somebody that's supposed to be this master martial artist in all forms, and has trained his entire life with the most elite of warriors that there are, fought a dragon to become who he is, and you watch him in these tiny little fights, and he's just
Pitiful.
not there.
Like the Punisher would have easily killed him.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Like
So-
Daredevil looks like he could hold his own against almost anybody.
Yeah, I try to recall a specific fight scene from the first season of Iron Fist that, after watching it, I'm immediately going, man, I need to tell everybody about this. I want to find a YouTube clip of this and send this to everybody, because this was amazing.
fight
And
scene, right?
It wasn't there.
No,
Like,
absolutely not.
You had that with almost every fight scene in the
I mean,
first
even
two
Jessica
seasons.
Jones has her fight scenes that are amazingly choreographed, and she's doing her thing, and she has her depth, and as well as the side character who was like training because she didn't want to be beat up too, because she would like her sister,
Right.
and so like it was just like, so you've led up to all these shows and stuff, and Iron Fist is supposed to be the end all be all of martial arts, and he is not.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's kind of the point, I think, of the show, is the fact that he hasn't had the training, and he still hasn't, figured out how to focus his chi into the Iron Fist and all that, But that's not really that dramatic. Like, no one cares, because you know why? It doesn't exist in the real world.
Yeah.
Like, what exists in the real world is his interactions with people, and that should be what you're focused on, is his inability to get people to understand where he's coming from, because from their perspective, he's an insane person. So,
Oh, yeah.
and that kind of made sense where it started like that, but you can't do 4 episodes about it and me still go, I don't care. I really don't care about your character and that you're looking insane. Like, it doesn't matter to me that whether you're Danny or not. The whole point is that you're Iron Fist. You've already shown that you're Iron Fist, but yet...
the issue I had with it was not the fact that he couldn't focus his chi and like he didn't learn how to focus it the way he was supposed to because he ran away. That's fine. My problem is when a normal couple street thugs can get the better of this guy who is supposed to be this super hardcore trained martial artist
be able
warrior.
to touch him or hit him or anything.
He should be able to knock
dodge
these guys.
everything.
Yeah, he should be able to knock out everyone without really thinking about it, not even having to use the chi. The problem I had with it was just that, and like there was a lot of opportunity. And I'm not saying the actor who plays Danny Rand is not
Doing a bad
talented,
job
but it's just the fact that you have to almost imagine like this guy was trained by this secret temple filled with martial artist warriors from different disciplines, and he learned them all. Like, you had to learn them all before you could go be chosen for the final test.
You had to just learn them all. You had to
Master them all.
Yeah, you had to master them all. And then you had to be chosen for the final test, which you had to go fight a dragon. And the whole point is he ends up doing it, getting the Iron Fist, and then he pieces out. Now, don't get me wrong. Obviously there must be some training into becoming the Iron Fist after you gain the power, so that makes it all fine. But now you're
that's
going
all
to...
mental. It's not.
Yeah.
And he's so mentally messed up from the accident, losing his parents and all this stuff, which is fine. That's definitely a dramatic piece to go to. But
It's
like
it's the Batman complex.
yeah,
My dad.
my mom and dad, I'm super wealthy, and I think that's the biggest problem is that he, You know, it should have been where he's just like literally throwing these people left and right, and like, but that's the problem. There's no motivation for him to be doing what he's doing. There's no, like, he knows the hand exists in New York, but there's no, like, other than that, there's no motivation for him. You know, it's not even told that that he needs to be in New York until the Defenders first episode, where he's like, they're in New York. Like, well, yeah, no, duh. We just watched an entire season about how they're infiltrated the entirety of New York. Like,
Yeah,
so.
I think again, its downfall was the Defenders. They had to rush that season to get it wrapped up, post production, release, and aired, so to speak, before, you know, a certain amount of time before the Defenders came out.
Well, you got to imagine they were filming the Defenders almost simultaneously.
Yeah, about the same time, and that was the downfall for that. Like, you can chalk it up to. I mean,
Well, here you could do this instead of rushing out doing Daredevil 2, season 2. You could have spent that time and money and effort doing Iron Fist correctly,
right?
and then
I really like Daredevil season 2.
I'm not saying, but that's the thing. They clearly put all their effort into that because that's their successful franchise that really launched the entire thing.
Right.
Because it was kind of iffy until season 1 anyway. Then they were already working on Jessica Jones, and then the success from Jessica Jones, they kind of rushed out Luke Cage, and so that's the problem. They started accelerating their production instead of taking the time they should.
Well, you could tell the quality from season 1 of Daredevil and Daredevil season 2. They're both extremely high quality because, I mean, there was it a full year difference? It was like a year. Yeah, there was like almost like a full year between each one, and so that was the only franchise they were working on. But then you see Jessica Jones. Now, I'm a huge fan of David Tennant. I'm a big Doctor Who fan, so he's the 10th Doctor, and as a villain in Jessica Jones, he was good. I mean, he's a great actor in general, and he did a really good job in Jessica Jones. And I think the actress they got for Jessica Jones, I'm drawing a blank on her name for some reason, but I thought she was actually pretty good too. I thought she was, even though she's kind of a downer most of the time, she still keeps the character very engaging and very fun to watch, and you root for her definitely.
Oh yeah, it was Kristen Ritter, by the way. Who plays Jessica Jones.
Yeah, that's right.
And yeah, I mean, it was, you know, David Tennant and the character that they gave him and the powers that he had of being able to basically manipulate anybody using his powers and make them do whatever he wants, put them under his control. You literally took a superpowered hero and made her just an everyday person because her strength meant nothing against this opponent. And so being able to essentially have to find a way to outsmart and better this villain basically without using her powers made for a very, in my mind, very interesting show. You know, it wasn't just, you know, hey, she's super strong, so just go in there and just punch him real hard and then you're done. It was a lot more in-depth than that. It was a lot more psychological than that. The show was, I mean, knowing Jessica Jones and what her powers were and all that stuff when that show came out, I expected a very, like, straightforward, surface level kind of show. And it was a lot more psychological and a lot more in-depth. And that's why I enjoyed that season so much.
My question, though, is, let's assume they do a standalone Jessica Jones season 2, right? Now, I don't know, because, like, now that they have the Defenders going, they could just be deciding, hey, we're going to focus all our attention in just making a really good Defenders show, and that's where they keep their focus on it, rather than going back to individual seasons.
Well, you could, because as a Defenders show, it doesn't have to be as all-inclusive as the first season of the Defenders was.
Right.
You can make another season of Defenders and, you know, this episode is mainly focused on, you know, Iron Fist and some things that he's dealing with, and then, you got a couple of episodes where it's, you know, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage doing some stuff.
Well, it's kind of like what Justice League, the show, did. Like, sometimes it'd just be Batman and the Flash doing something, or, you know, Martian Manhunter and Wonder Woman going and doing it, and Green Lantern happens to show up, right? They can kind of make it that collaboration but a selective.
Yeah, but with only 4 characters, like you can't really. I mean, you could probably do that, but all the actors are like, well, why am I sitting here like waiting for my scenes or whatever? You know, I don't know how well that would actually work out in the live action. It works out in a cartoon, but I don't know how well it would.
I mean, the only thing that I would be concerned about is kind of what we spoke about off air earlier was the Game of Thrones problem, where you get involved in a story and you get involved with some characters, and then it just abruptly stops, and then they jump to something else.
And you have to wait 4 episodes before they get back into it.
Yes, the only way that would really work, in my opinion, is they would have to come to some sort of conclusions throughout the season. And so if you do have, let's say, Defender Season 2, you got first 2 episodes are purely about Iron Fist, and he's, you know, maybe say gone back to finish his training or whatever. You know, if it's 1 episode, if it's 2 episodes, whatever, you got to have that conclusion. It's got to come to an end. He's got to resolve it, and then you can go back to, you know, watching somebody else and then bringing him in, and now you already know that he's got this other thing that he's accomplished, and add on to it from there.
That, or they just may decide, like, altogether, like, hey, they're going to go do their own things, but they're still technically the Defenders, but we're just kind of taking previews of what's going on in each storyline throughout the episode. And then, like, it's all leading up to the finale, like the last 2 or 3 episodes where they come back together, or, you know, whatever it may be. They can kind of do it that way.
Yeah,
I mean, it just depends if they're going to keep the Hand as their main villain throughout, or if there's going to be some new major villains that introduced.
I hope they move on from the Hand. Like, I don't know. I haven't, like, obviously,
Well, it defeats the purpose of Iron Fist if they get rid of the Hand completely.
Well, I mean, yeah, but, like, you keep that in the Iron Fist world. Don't, you know, I mean, it doesn't need to be the Daredevils, you know, all of their enemies. Like, it's too coincidental for them all to have the same enemy.
Well,
I mean, yes and no. Like, I see where you're coming from, but at the same time, like, it also made leading up to the Defenders make more sense because they all had a.
That's how they could figure it out.
You know? And then again, you know, they kind of touch on the you know, comic book conundrum of all of these heroes are in New York and yet somehow never don't
Cross
have the
paths.
same enemy, don't cross paths, whatever. I mean, you take all the comics and even the movies and stuff going, you know, all prior to the Avengers, you're like, well, that's weird. Like, Captain America takes place in New York. Iron Man takes place in New York. Spider-Man takes place in New York. Like, all of these heroes are constantly fighting enemies in New York, and yet somehow never cross paths, never end up fighting the same enemy. Like, that to me doesn't make sense. And so, like, it's always been just kind of a nod. Like, in the comic book world, you just knew, like, oh, well, Spider-Man's New York is Spider-Man's New York. He's the only hero in his New York and all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of interesting to see that go differently, where, you know, even during all these individual
you meet
seasons,
Luke Cage and Jessica Jones,
yeah,
like,
so, like, even
early on, the first
even
episode.
in all these seasons, you see all this stuff, and, you know, even in the Jessica Jones seasons, all this stuff, you see, like, the newspaper articles about Daredevil, or, like, you know, Daredevil will be, like, on the news in the background or
right.
something like that. So you really get that involvement of, you know, it's all intertwined. You know, they're all dealing with the same thing. Now, I do agree with not sticking with the same villain over and over again, because that's the Loki problem.
Or the Flash problem.
Yeah, where it's just, eventually you get tired of seeing the same enemy. But I think it'll be hard for them to do individual seasons again, because now that you've done the Defenders and you've paired them all together.
Well, they've already announced that Daredevil Season 3 is coming out.
Right.
So, I don't know if they're working on a Jessica Jones.
I know there's going to be an Iron Fist Season 2, I believe I have seen. I don't know anything about Luke Cage. I think there's going to be a Luke Cage Season 2. So, they are going to do these individual seasons and stuff again. I think it's just going to be a lot harder for them to make them good.
Yeah.
Because now when you go in and you're watching...
Yeah, they're going to have to add a major character just like they did for Punisher.
Right.
Like, they're going to have to add this giant character or that giant character. I think instead of focusing on adding new protagonists, they need to focus on antagonists. And, you know, because that's what, like, we've talked again before about this. The antagonist is what makes the
Yeah.
the protagonists as big of a character as they are. You wouldn't have Batman without Joker. You wouldn't have, Joker is right in that aspect, is that he would not be the level of Batman he is without Joker.
I mean,
So
that
question.
Seen Lego Batman, he doesn't need anybody.
Yeah.
So question, what if they did something similar to this? So they still have their individual seasons, but now that they already got the initial Defenders kind of introduction out the way, that whenever there's like a major crisis that's building up in their individual seasons, they just do
Oh, you mean
like a 2-hour movie.
like Infinity Stones, maybe? Like.
Oh, but no, what if they did like a 2-hour movie? Which is, instead of doing like a 8-episode thing, they just do a 2-hour movie where it's them coming together as Defenders.
That would be great, but I mean, think about it. That's 4 episodes of Defenders, right? So,
Well, I mean
it's not that.
Yeah.
It's.
I mean, the only reason why I say that is it's. I mean.
I guess
it would
really
be-
2, because I guess the episodes are pretty long. They're like
Yeah,
45
Hour
minutes.
longs, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just like a 2-episode deal, but treat it like a movie though, where it's kind of like a collaboration where they come together and defeat a common enemy,
Yeah.
but they're able to still kind of focus more on the individual seasons, and then they have that. Because, like I said, they already did their introduction where they all come together, and the 8 episodes that they've talked about. I know we're talking about the Defenders a lot right now,
Yeah,
but
or something we'll really bring up next week and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But I mean, so aside from all that stuff, whether we know they're going to do second seasons and stuff, everything, and I think they're going to have to come up with new villains for everybody, and they can't just keep because
Well,
if
it's
you keep
obvious.
the same villains. It's not going to make sense for them to all have individual seasons again.
It's obvious that Luke Cage is going to be fighting Diamondback again.
Yeah.
That's obvious, and I'm not really a fan of that, but it makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, and then so let's talk about the season of Luke Cage. Like, I don't know how you guys felt about it, but my main problem with Luke Cage wasn't a problem with the Netflix season. It's the problem I have with his character. I'm not a fan of Superman. I don't like the all or nothing superhero, and that's what Superman is. He is either all powerful or all useless based on the situation. There's no middle
The
ground.
convenience of the situation. Yeah.
And Luke Cage to me is the same. It's the same hero. It's sure he can't fly and doesn't have super speed, but the indestructible,
Yeah.
and the super strength and all that stuff. He is a modern day Superman or whatever, but they're kind of doing it as Netflix, and yeah, it makes him to the point of you can't put him in peril. And again, talking about the fight choreography from Daredevil and all that stuff, you're not going to get these amazing fight scenes with Luke Cage because
He's just going to stand there and take it.
all he's got to do is stand there and let it happen, and then wait for somebody to get tired and knock him around or slap him around or
Or
whatever.
throw him through a wall or whatever.
So you'll see a lot of cool visual stuff of him showing his strength and all stuff, but as far as like an amazing fight scene, it's just not going to happen. And
I mean, and it makes sense though. To be honest, I mean, if you're like that, do you really need to learn how to fight?
exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's a problem with anything that Netflix has done, or
It's just the character itself.
It is the character himself, and that's even in comics and cartoons and all stuff. I've never been a big fan of Luke Cage because it's like you can't put him in a scenario that you're worried about him making it out because he's going to. And technically, that's true with all heroes. That most people don't have the guts to kill off a hero and all that stuff, but you can still be worried about them getting hurt and like something bad happening and all that stuff. And you're just not worried about the Luke
Yeah.
Cage.
And Luke Cage's quote-unquote kryptonite is the exploding alien bullets or whatever.
Yeah.
Because, which I guess, it worked out because at the time I was like, oh, that's a pretty big deal. The fact now he can be hurt, but then it literally was a passing.
Yeah.
It was gone.
Just
It was
kinda
not a
glanced over
worry.
real quick. The big worry downfall that you had of Luke Cage was after he took the big explosion, he started like hemorrhaging internally, and that put him into like a coma basically. But they couldn't operate on him because he is indestructible, and so you have this whole like concern about him in that sense. But like I said again, that's the all or nothing. The same thing you have with Superman. Like Superman's all powerful. Then he busts out a little green rock and now he's useless.
Yeah.
And so Luke Cage is the same way. He's all powerful, but if you get a big enough blow to him, then he's completely out. He'll start him drink eternally like a normal person, and there's nothing anybody can do about it except, watch him die. And so that's my problem with Luke Cage, and it's, again, nothing that they did wrong. I think the writing for the show was done pretty well. Patrick, you even stated the soundtrack for the show was
phenomenal.
really good.
It was really, really good.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I was more interested, like, even just the main theme song is the best theme song out of all of them, in my opinion.
Right.
Like, it fits his character perfectly, it fits the show, and it's a great song. Like, it really is. And, I don't know, I think the actor that they picked is the right actor for Luke Cage.
Oh yeah,
Himself,
absolutely.
like, he
yeah.
is the perfect character.
He looks intimidating. He
Yeah.
looks like a large, intimidating guy, and
Yeah. But he's also very stoic, just a really good guy. He clearly was a great sheriff or a great, officer. Like, and you could really feel his, his sadness for just the world of, like, what's happening around him.
Yeah,
And
especially
he
with
wants to do something good and protect the innocent, and like you can see in his acting that's exactly what you see. And even he struggles with, I guess, his superhuman strength kind of thing, like him and Jessica Jones fooling around just because they were like, oh, we can not hurt each other or whatever, is a pretty funny situation as well. But yeah, like, I mean, even the stuff that happens to him though, like, every now and then he'll get punched by someone, and it's just not, he'll be like, oh, take him back or whatever, but it's kind of weird to see it but you kind of have to have that happen, right? If he literally could just walk through stuff, it wouldn't be that big a deal.
Yeah, and again, you kind of have to, it is something that'll come up more during our Defenders talk, because you see it a little bit more in the Defenders, but they have them start reeling from stuff that doesn't make sense. You got a guy that can stand there and let 30 guys unload magazines of rounds into him with no problem, and then somebody
It's an annoyance because his shirts are having to constantly be replaced.
Well, and that's one of those things that Netflix said did great. Like, they kind of like point, they make a note to point that out, that it's like getting mad that he keeps buying new shirts because all of his shirts have holes in them and all that stuff. And so, like, they have these nice little, like, comic nods and all that stuff. But like I said, you can have somebody go through all this kind of damage, take all this kind of abuse, and then some 180-pound guy comes up and roundhouse kicks him, and it, like, knocks him off balance, and he falls over. And they're like, I feel like you're taking a lot more force than that when 30 guys are shooting guns at you,
Right.
to not even fall backwards and all this stuff. And I was
Like-
I understand indestructible doesn't make you to where you're perfect balance and you can't ever get knocked over. I mean, technically Luke Cage could trip on a step that's a little too high and fall over. Like, he's still human.
Yeah.
But how are you gonna let this kind of thing happen and not give him the the sense of guys are shooting at him and he just stands there and doesn't feel it?
Yeah. I mean, it's supposed to be like just that stoic, basically he's the tank, right? He's the cleric of the group, and he just stands there, takes the bullets, takes whatever he needs to do, and then moves forward. Like,
I think what would have been a really good idea, but would have been a super big risk for them to do on this show, is I feel like they are trying to make these heroes a lot more grounded in reality. Even in the movies, we talked about Superman or Spider-Man: Homecoming, where Vulture wasn't a half man, half vulture. He was a guy that had created this rig and gave him wings and all that stuff. So aside from Dan Rand's Iron Fist, which even then they step away from saying it's magic to saying it's like chi, which a lot of people legitimately believe in and think is a real thing, that I think they could have made the show a little bit more interesting if maybe you say that Luke Cage feels the pain of getting shot, but where it doesn't actually cause physical damage. Like, he's not going to die from somebody shooting him and punching him.
right. You still have nerves, right?
Yeah. But if you gave him hey, you're this guy, like, you can't puncture your skin, but you're still going to feel all that force and it's still going to hurt,
Yeah.
I think that would make his character
The Jackie
a little bit
Chan
more
kind of
interesting.
thing.
Yeah.
Just like make him take it, but
Exactly.
but from hesitant from pain as opposed to
Yeah, because then you can still put him in these kind of scenarios to where, like, he's not going to want to walk into a room and let 30 guys just light him up, because it's going to cause him serious pain. And anybody gets enough pain, you can pass out from pain, you can get loopy from pain and all that stuff. So it would put him in a situation to where he's all right. Now I do have to be a little bit more
Hesitant.
tactical about how I handle stuff.
Yeah.
And worst case scenario, if I do just need to take it, I can, but I'm gonna have to suffer through it.
Yeah.
And I kind of would give him something to overcome.
Yeah.
But again, that would be a huge risk to
Well, I think the
fans
biggest
of the character.
one of the problems I had with the show is that they went literally from instead of going from handguns to rifles to and like upgrading the weapons all the way to the exploding rounds, they literally went from guns to exploding rounds. There was no gradual increase of like, oh, we need to get better guns or we need to get this or that. They didn't try a grenade. They didn't try a grenade launcher, or they didn't try things that you would go to before an exploding round, right? Or the alien technology round, right? So because that's in limited supply, right? So you wouldn't want to just start blowing them away because there's limited supply of them, and I think that was a real problem with the show itself, is you would kind of want to see that gradual where it does knock him back, it does do those things, because I'm pretty sure a grenade, he couldn't catch a grenade and it just explode in his face like Superman, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it would affect him, and it would maybe something would get in his eye and make him kind of blind, or at least fuzzy vision or something. And so, and you could do that.
Well, I mean, and also it's not even just, it's just the impact itself. Just because it doesn't penetrate you doesn't mean, again, that there's no momentum behind it.
Right.
And so if, let's say, so what, if like a car were to hit Luke Cage, is he just going to stand there and the car's just going to get ripped to shreds?
You see him get pushed back by it.
He gets pushed back because, at the end of the day, I'm sorry, he's bulletproof for sure.
Physics still
yeah,
exists.
that car is still heavier than Luke Cage. That car's going to win on that one. It may not hurt him, but that car's still going to push him.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things also, think of like an explosion. An explosion has a ton of force behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And just because, you're
That should
bulletproof,
knock him off
you
off
should
his
push
feet.
him back and at least, hey,
Yeah.
jerk, I'm standing there.
Yeah.
And he'll be okay, but nonetheless, he still can get knocked around. And that's kind of the idea.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. Luke Cage is one of those interesting ones that I actually am pretty hopeful for. It's just there's a lot of. How do you write for that, right? There's only you have to figure out a good way to write with it. With Daredevil, one bullet hits him, he's dead, or at least he's gonna be out.
Yeah.
For a while. Same thing with
Iron Fist.
Iron Fist. You shoot him.
Unless
he uppercuts the bullet, I'm sorry, he's gonna get down for a while.
Yeah.
Jessica Jones, same way.
Yeah.
She's not indestructible in any way. She's just strong.
Yeah.
So I don't know. One of the other problems I have with Luke Cage is the story kind of does a 180. Like, you're really getting involved in Cottonmouth and his story and what's happening, and then all of a sudden he's dead, and you have to, okay, he's dead. Who's the bad guy now? And then their Diamondback's been mentioned throughout the show, but then I don't know anything about the characters because I never really read comic books, so. Kind of the reveal was big and it was good, but you should have dedicated one season to that. Second season, go, okay, we're moving on to Diamondback at the end of the second season, or you didn't need to have so many moving parts. And so, in Daredevil, all you had was Wilson Fisk and his motivations and what's happening with him, right? Yes, there's other characters involved, but they're not the main villain. They're not the main antagonist. And even season 2, he was focused on Punisher and then realized that later that's what they had, that there's other stuff going on. And so that's the thing. You can't have Cottonmouth be the villain the whole time and then kill him off. And then even though I know all these other characters are characters that are in Luke Cage, the comic book, it doesn't mean you have to flesh out the entire thing. Let him build up all of the weapons to get to where, okay, I need to get another thing, and then that's at the end of the episode you have a fight with
that's why I'm super excited for a second season of Iron Fist, because it's my understanding that even during the filming of the first season of Iron Fist, at one point, and I think it's probably right when the turn on was, they were basically had to scrap the current script they had and kind of rewrite and then film the rest of the season. And so Because,
Really? I hadn't even heard that.
Yeah, because the time frame for when they wanted the Defenders to come out had got bumped so much that they had kind of had their idea of where they wanted Iron Fist to go, and then partway through the season it was hey, like, this is kind of taking too long with this, like, we really need to get him more involved with, XYZ that's going on, and kind of
that way it works with what's happening in the future.
It was literally, they had already filmed about the first half of the season, and the script was literally tossed out, and then they were put on hold for I think they were given a month to rewrite the entire script for the last half of the season.
Yeah, you can't do that. You have to stick with what you're doing. You can't do that pivot. You can, but it's not always successful.
And that's why I am excited to see an Iron Fist season 2, because I'm pretty confident that when they do a season 2 for Iron Fist, it is going to be a much more structured, laid out, time given to make sure it's done well, and then go from there and see how much better they can run a show around this character. Because aside from Daredevil, I mean, Iron Fist is one of my favorite characters. This whole universe they've created. I know you can technically say they're both kind of similar in a sense that they're both martial artists and trained by the same people and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, I've always been a huge Iron Fist fan. I have such a higher standard for his season than I do any of the other ones.
Yeah, and I think I like, even though I know you don't like him, I don't really like Superman either, but I like all of the. I like all of the negative things happening to Luke Cage. Like, just everyone around him is it's true. Like, everyone around him he's trying to protect are getting hurt because of all the stuff that's happening, right? And so that's where all the interest for me comes from, is like, and on top of that, like, just the characters all the actors and actresses they picked to play all these characters are amazing. Alfred Woodard or whatever even though she's in a billion things, and she's even in she's the mom in Civil War that convinces him to. I mean, I don't know if that's going to play out to be that she was Black Mariah and she faked this to cause, since she is a villain, right? I don't know if that's the intent of where that's going, or if that just happened to be a coincidence that happened.
Yeah.
But she's she's in so much stuff, and like, even I just watched First Contact, Star Trek First Contact, and she's the main character in that. She's the main side character in that. And so she, but yeah, all the characters, Rosario Dawson is gorgeous, so I love seeing her in everything. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I'm looking forward to all the next shows. My wife is not looking forward to the next shows. She doesn't really care for the Marvel shows on Netflix, because I guess she just gets bored with it. She kind of liked Daredevil because they took so long to develop the story. She got bored with it, and which I can kind of see. But
yeah, I think it would be cool to see if there's a tie-in with the actress you're talking about. But I also think that, based on other examples, that sometimes they just kind of like certain people in these shows. You got, Chris Evans was initially Human Torch,
right,
and then now he's Captain America. And I just had to check, but it's Michael B. Jordan who was Human Torch in the
new one,
last Fantastic Four movie.
Right.
He's now also going to be in
Black Panther.
So it's kind of just
as a different character.
Yeah, they just see, hey, we really like you, we think you did well in this movie. We got another part that we can give you, because it's all, all these production companies tend to work together and watch each other's work and see what's going on. So
yeah, I'm interested to see if her name is a different. I mean, I'm sure it is. I don't even know when the timing of filming for Luke Cage versus. No, they're happening at the same exact time. And her name in Captain America: Civil War is Miriam, and her name in the show is Mariah.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's not that far off. So maybe she does end up being Mariah, and just happen. Because how else would she have access to the backstage where Iron Man is, right? How else could she would have to have some sort of political power or something else is happening, or she's getting it in. So I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
that could make sense of why, she wants to create chaos in Avengers because Avengers, Defenders, and all of them get together, right? So you want to cause as much chaos so stuff isn't happening. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm making stuff up in my head, but I mean, it seems to make sense to me. Like, I mean, why else? I mean, and especially she's a well-known actress. Like, she's been around forever, so there's no need to make her two different characters in the same universe
At the same time.
At the same time. It's like being filmed at the same time.
Yeah.
That's a forethought. That's not a our bad, or Marvel Productions is doing both of them. They're the ones that hired her for both shows, or the show and the movie. So I'm pretty sure that you heard it here first. That's what's happening.
Full call.
But yeah,
I'm looking forward to see how they I'm hoping they take more time. So that's my hope, is they take more time with with Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist. I think Daredevil, they have it. I think they got it down. They know the kind of formula they want to go with, and they have the style that they're trying to go for with him. I think the other ones need a little bit more fine-tunement.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like they definitely seem to take their time on the movies, and they seem to rush the shows, and it kind of makes sense at the same time because a show it's seasons, right? So you got to release the seasons every year, unless you're Doctor Who or or Game of Thrones or whatever, or what was the original HBO hit, the Gangsters one? My brain is like shut.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah, but so Sopranos.
That one.
So yeah, where it takes 3 years for every season to come out. You're gonna have problems eventually, but yeah, it's. I mean, what do y'all have? What are y'all looking forward to most? Are y'all looking forward to Daredevil season 3 the most, or are you looking forward to?
In all honesty, like I said, I mean, obviously I've enjoyed Daredevil season 1 and 2 the most, but kind of like I said, I'm most excited for Iron Fist season 2 because I want them to redeem that first season.
Yeah, hopefully they will.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident that season 3 of Daredevil is gonna be just good. I think I'm also super excited for Punisher because it's gonna be a new one that I'm really excited to see. But based on Punisher coming from that Daredevil season, I don't have any qualms or concerns about that being good. Same thing with Daredevil season 3. So even though I'm excited to see these and I really want to watch them, I'm most excited for Iron Fist season 2 because I really want to see the redemption. I want it to happen, and it needs to happen.
I want the double Iron Fist.
Yeah,
all right. I want him to have his two fists going crazy and doing stuff.
That yet.
I want to see him busting.
Yeah, you saw it in the black and white footage of the old Iron Fist.
Right.
That's what you saw, but you didn't see him doing it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the thing is, he's supposed to be able to do a lot of different stuff with his Iron Fist, not just I can punch something with it.
Yeah, they showed in his it was in his season that he learned that he can heal with it, but he did it that one time,
and it drained his energy,
and never again, and then so that even didn't make sense. And again, I'm kind of getting into what we're going to talk about next week in the Defenders. If there was an injury that you would assume he would have been there to heal, and they just act like it wasn't an option. So yeah, I'm excited. That's probably why I'm most excited for Iron Fist season 2. There's so much more to his character they haven't touched on yet, and they really need to redeem that first season.
Yeah, they need to give him the I'm training to be Iron Fist. Right. I mean, I know that at the end of the Iron Fist, he went back to Kung Lao or whatever, and was going to start his training as Iron Fist. That was his goal, and it was gone. But it's I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't know where they could possibly go. Like I said, I don't even know what's happening in Defenders. I still have to finish that.
I need to see him in his classic Iron Fist costume.
He has a costume?
Super big V neck thing.
Yeah, it doesn't have to go that deep.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be the super deep V.
Okay.
Down to his happy trail.
Yeah. It's out there.
Is it?
Oh yeah.
Out there.
You haven't seen it. Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, and again, you do because they at least nod to it because that footage video of Iron Fist, that old Iron Fist is wearing the Iron Fist outfit.
That green and yellow. Oh yeah. It goes down.
We gotta show off the.
You show the dragon.
Yeah.
Make sure everybody knows.
That he is the Iron Fist.
Yeah.
of course, it doesn't have a scar on his.
And the big cowl behind it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you saw a version of that in that footage video from the old Iron Fist.
Right. Well, I mean, that's a whole other problem too. So he's supposed to be. I don't know how he is in the comics, but I'm assuming he's supposed to have a secret identity, right? Or does everyone just all know that Danny Rand is Iron Fist, just like Iron Man is?
Yeah, like as far as like the common like public knowledge, like yeah, he has a secret identity. So like.
So it's kind of weird the fact that there's way too many people that already know he's the Iron Fist.
Right.
So that you can't really have that now. So there's no
Well,
point in having a costume.
No,
right?
I mean yes and no. So like because the issue is the villains that he's had in his season and go forward are all the Hand, and they're all from
there. So
so they all know everything about the Iron Fist. They all know like who's supposed to be the Iron Fist. That's why they were.
it's common knowledge in there.
Danny Rand, yeah, and so those have been the enemies he's been fighting, and even now, you know, in his season, most comic folk don't know that Danny Rand is also Iron Fist. Like nobody in his company knows that
He's fighting
Iron
on the
Fist.
side. Yeah.
That's why they just didn't understand why he's not showing up to all these meetings and why he's doing he's always
The
missing.
very important meetings.
So there is still a point of him having a secret identity, but at the same time, they've done the show where Luke Cage is in a secret identity. Jessica Jones is in a secret identity, but nobody really knows that she has
powers. Except them.
Yeah. So it could be. I know in the season of Jessica Jones, it's supposed to take place after she's already been a superhero, and so she's very anti costumes and capes and all that kind of stuff. So I don't see them going forward with a Defender season where like they're all in
Their
some
full
sort of
outfits.
or whatever. I can see them making a nice little nod to it, having some little side person that knows them, like the guy that's always going into Jessica Jones' apartment to like help her out. Him doing like I drew like a little art concept for all of y'all's costumes, and it'd be like everybody's original costume, and they like shut it down. Kind of what they did in X-Men when Wolverine was supposed to put his suit on. He was like,
yellow.
What do you want me to like yellow and black spandex? Like, they just make the nod to the original costume.
Right.
So, I'm sure that the green and yellow costume, that's just they did the nod to it with that found footage, and that was it. But I feel like probably somewhere in season 2 he might get an actual
Or maybe 3.
outfit instead of
Defenders
just fighting
2,
in
maybe.
street clothes all the time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But
What about you? What are you looking forward to?
I mean, as far as that goes, it's either the Punisher or Iron Fist 2. Because I mean, we already know that Daredevil is going to be good. There's no question in my mind. I think Jessica Jones is on the right track. So I think the next season is just going to be a little bit, like, again, fine-tuning everything. And same thing with Luke Cage. I think it's going to be more just fine-tuning of what's already good. Iron Fist, I think, was the only one that you could really say had some real genuine problems.
Yeah. Production problems.
Production problems.
Yeah.
And I think, the thing I like about Iron Fist is there's a lot of potential to what that character can accomplish, but you got to see almost none of it.
Yeah, you can't move him this slowly. You need to speed up his development.
Yeah, he's the only character that has suffered from, you can almost say, like a really slow origin story.
Yeah.
And they need to speed it up and make him do some really cool stuff like you got to see in the other
Learn
seasons.
from his mistakes, where he's actually learning from his mistakes. He should have already been finished his entire arc of his parents being an issue for his mental state. He should already be out of all that stuff. So I think that they within the first or second episode he needs to be able to be doing what he needs to do, and that he's coming into contact with. He should be able to throw the guy he struggled with beating down before he went to see Madame Gao, the drunken master. He should have been. He should be no problem.
Yeah.
That should be literally throw you to the side because you are so insignificant.
Yeah,
And
in
so-
comparison.
Right, because you got to raise the stakes. You can't just these no-name people who are actually getting hits in on him. Like, they can't be getting hits. He needs to literally just be dodging and weaving and like all of them without even worried about being hit, because that's supposed to be his level of understanding and mastery. So
I mean, and so on top, so like as far as that goes, I mean that's, and then John Bernthal as the Punisher. I mean, I'm just really excited to see what they do with a dedicated season to him and see what he's going to be able to bring. So that's, it's really difficult for me to say. If I had to say, I am leaning more towards Iron Fist just because he's already there, and I want to see him do more stuff. And kind of to your point, we've already seen what the Punisher can do, and it's freaking awesome. So I'm really excited to see both, but I think I am leaning more towards Iron Fist, just because I want to see him do what you were kind of expecting him to do in his first season. So, kind of that's where I think it's a good point.
I mean, eventually, as far as I know, Misty Knight from Luke Cage and Colleen Wing and Iron Fist become a duo. So I'm assuming that they're going to do a spin-off of them two alone and not being side characters in Iron Fist and Luke Cage.
The only thing I wonder is if they're going to keep Colleen as a love interest for Danny Rand. I mean, right now, it looks like that's what they're going to go with. I don't see them changing that. Now, I could see them doing like maybe an episode where they pair up, and then they kind of like that's kind of their homage to their duo that's in comics. But I don't know. I don't know if I would say that they're going to make a dedicated Colleen Misty duo.
I mean, Luke Cage is supposed to end up being the husband of Jessica Jones, right? Or am I wrong in that? I remember reading that as I was like learning about the characters, is that Luke Cage as a character becomes. Let me look it up real quick. But I'm like almost sure that his character, him and
Jessica
Jones,
end up being together. I don't know. I mean, I haven't personally read that much into Luke Cage's character.
He later marries superpowered private investigator Jessica Jones, who he has a daughter with.
Oh, well, I mean, there you go.
So, I mean, that's the thing. There's so many things like that there's so many connections. That's why it made sense when he was in Jessica Jones as like being introduced, because that's the end goal, right? So that means that.
Well, not. I mean.
But I mean, they don't have to go with that, right? Because that's not what is required in Marvel. There's different universes.
In
right?
Iron Fist, Colleen Wing and Danny Rand do hook up, and they stay together for a while. But then through, I guess, ideological differences, they go do their own thing. The only thing in this one, though, if you actually look up, because I forget who Iron Fist ends up marrying, but he marries someone else. But nonetheless, what ends up happening with Colleen Wing is she kind of does follow more of the I'm going to kill people who are bad, rather than, Iron Fist doesn't really believe in that.
And killing at all.
Yeah. So it's just, like, I don't know how they're going to play that, if they're going to play that inside the show, because the only difference, though, is you can tell Colleen Wing is 100% on board with what Iron Fist is doing. She fully supports him. So I'm sure there's going to be some differences. I like the dynamic between the actors. They're both very good. I just want them to flesh out what Iron Fist can do. I want to see him be Iron Fist. I want to see him be that like martial arts master that just, if you see him, you're afraid because he's gonna hurt you, and you haven't got that yet. I hope in season 2 it finally pays off. I can honestly say I have a lot of hope for that, because Daredevil season 1 was good, but season 2 was better. I think you could tell everything was improved. Character, fight scenes, atmosphere, writing, all of it was just better. I hope Iron Fist keeps up the trend.
Yeah.
So that, I think, we'll end our main topic today.
Okay, I'm going home. Keep your money.
I think this week, though, we're going to skip our Wonderfully Bad movie. Our main topic went a little bit longer than expected. Thank you for joining us on this little Marvel Cinematic Netflix journey.
In the seat to my left.
In the seat to my left is the Scott.
The Scott.
The Scott Phillips.
The one and only.
Yeah.
All right.
And so, thank you, and we will see you next week.